Okay, good morning. We'll get ready to call to order the regular meeting of June 15, 2022 of the Chenango County IDA Board of Directors. We'll go ahead and roll call ourselves in. Blanchard here. Raymond here.
Ryan here, Zeno here.
Given here.
Corey here. Burton here. We'll move on to the reading of the IDA mission statement. Our mission is to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in the acquiring, construction, reconstruction, improving, maintaining, equipping, and furnishing industrial, manufacturing, warehousing, commercial, research, and recreation facilities, including industrial pollution control facilities, educational or cultural facilities, railroad facilities, and continuing care retirement communities. To provide financial assistance and thereby advance the job opportunities, health, general prosperity, and economic welfare of the people of the County of Chenango, and to improve their recreation opportunities, prosperity, and standard of living, as approved March 24, 2022. Need a motion to approve the minutes of May 18, 2022.
So
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
no, just kudos to Barbara. She did a great job.
Nice, thank you, Barbara. We'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond,
Ryan, I, Zeno, I.
Given it.
Abstain, wasn't here.
And Bert and I. Great. In the interest of time and our guests' time, we're going to go ahead and move up agenda item number 9, new business. And we're going to allow Norwich Meadows Farm the floor at this time. Zayda, I assume you're going to lead off things. Do you want to come in front of the board or whatever makes you comfortable?
Whatever works.
Okay.
Better that way.
So I believe last month I shared that Zayda and Phil had reached out about the possible purchase of the Early Clark Park that they are currently leasing from the IDA. So
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for listening to us. So, Norwich Meadows, now after the pandemic, hopefully is semi behind us, although we're still dealing with the ramifications of it. We really need to have a building constructed because our building on our other farm is pretty antiquated and there's really no room to put a building there. So we started talking to Carrie a few months ago about that prospect. It is like vital that we have it for food safety reasons and just for the general expansion of our farm. We continue to grow pretty rapidly. So it's really important. There's water there, you know, we have our facilities there, so it would be very, very important for us to be able to purchase the land so that we can put a building on it. We'll build the building as soon as we can.
Zayd, how many locations now? Because it seems like you're popping up a little bit everywhere, especially out on 23. How many locations right now are you growing at?
We have 4 locations, and it's mainly because Chenango County has very narrow valleys and it's very difficult to find. Ideally, we'd have one 500-acre piece somewhere, and that's not possible very easily at all. So we continue to look for more land. And so 4 of them, Route 23's got 2, and of course the facility at North Norwich, and then we have 80 acres in South New Brunswick as well.
How many people are you currently employing?
We have this year, we'll probably have on the farm right around 50, maybe a little more. We're in the process of, we just applied for another 5 visas, so it's literally in the process right now. So about 50 here, and then we have a crew of about 10, 12 down in New York City that helps us.
During the off season, what's that drop to?
It drops to 6, 7, and we would employ more if we could. There's issues with visas and having more people, but we are getting green cards for some people, and we continue to try to hire locally. We would hire more if under the right circumstances. So the building actually would make for us to be able to hire more people. So we just need a bigger building to have people in.
Thank you.
Is the building you're proposing gonna be used for housing also, or
No,
just for food processing?
So could you expand on how the new building could increase opportunities for employment?
well, in that building, we want to have some value-added processing as well, in addition to our regular processing, just washing and preparing, but also value-added and storage. So one of the things we've taken on this year is working with a dairy farm here in Chenango County that's sort of transitioning out of dairy and they're kind of moving in our direction. And so those type of things are likely going to happen more and more. And so we need space to we're going to have storage space, value added space. Opportunities purchase of this land and doing this would open up opportunities that are sort of dormant because we can't really, like literally, we want to expand like shipping. In other words, we pack boxes and we ship them, and we want to ship them all over the country. Problem is I really don't have a facility, and the ideal facility would be right there at the farm.
Have you talked to the town of North Norwich in regards to this possible development at all?
Not yet.
In your operations, you say it's a value-added strategy. Is that packaging and making things less perishable? How does
That's certainly part of it, but another part, to give you an idea of what our farm does, is we got a USDA value added producer grant. So we're also adding value by saying that our operations sequester carbon, our operations do good for the environment. And so that's another way to do it, so it's not only the traditional value added of making a ketchup or whatever. Another thing that we've already done, we have now a sort of a satellite operation in the Hudson Valley. It's a resort, and they hired us to basically come in and start a farm, and we work very closely with all of the famous chefs in the city. So we're adding value beyond just the traditional value added. After the pandemic, it's very scary. So we're looking to diversify our markets. So that's another way of doing that.
We did do our due diligence. Part of the time that we spent in preparing for this was finding the original documents of when we were gifted that land from, at the time, Norwich Pharmaceuticals. So we did find keys, and we found the laptops, and we found the original paperwork. We wanted to make sure that there was nothing within that gift that precluded us from selling the property, and there is not.
This carries the entire site?
Yeah, it's
Which includes the
47.
lot, or
Yeah.
includes the aqueduct that's there, that it was repaired under the IDA, or under,
The one across the street.
yeah.
I think that I don't know. I think the aqueduct that is being done is across the street.
No, I'm talking the one that was damaged during the floods in
The old canal.
The old canal.
Oh, I don't know.
Because you've got that, and I didn't know if it was Kentucky, plus you had they used to have a garden set up for somebody here in the town, or city of Norwich was always gardening up there, and they had garden plots on the other side of the
Aqueduct, yeah, because we had to maintain that entryway so that the person that was farming that or growing there was able to access it. And that was like a handshake agreement for a long time, for the most part.
No, I don't think that's happening.
It's not happening anymore, but I guess if we sold it, I wouldn't want to I want to make sure that goes with it.
That was my point.
Randy's-
If you can take the entire site or just to that point, because then we're still liable for that other.
Right.
I don't know anything about that, so I will have to.
Yeah, it's right where that historical marker is. that's out there?
I mean, I would assume it's part of the property as a whole, but I
I would
don't know
assume
that.
so, but
Yeah, and since it was repaired for flood damage under FEMA and under New York State, we have a 10-year responsibility to maintain that anyways. But that's how you get your grants. It's a 10-year guarantee that you'll keep that up and do it. So I just wondered if you were going to transfer that responsibility over when you sold the property or.
I would say we'd give it all to the new property owners and that would go, I don't know where this is. I don't know anything about it. so.
It's that old stone structure you see right on Route 12. You'll see the historical marker, and just downstream of that is that old stone arch. It's just part of the old canal system.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any maintenance on it because it's already been all brought up to stuff when FEMA did the repair works and stuff on it. But it's just something that we're responsible for.
yeah, it had a partial collapse during some flooding. And because it was historical and on our property, we were required to fix it. So we did get some grant money and applied for some FEMA grants, and we had a professional come in and fix it to its original state. But that was, it's been 5 years now at least, right?
It's probably been almost 5 or 6.
Oh, maybe more than that. Was it after 2011? That 10-year period might even be up.
It might be, I'm not sure. It's just, but it's something that's just to be aware of, that, you know.
I'll call on my friend over at the paneling office and double check about that. My assumption would be if it's part of the property, it would go with the new property owner, but we'll.
I'll say what you could do too is, I know the Chenango Land Trust has lot 99 down in green. If you wanted to, or if Nate was willing, or whatever you decided, you might want to even donate that to the Chenango Land Trust because they already have that old canal lot. That might be another opportunity for them.
Okay.
And I don't know how many acres was on the other side.
I think it was a small plot.
Yeah, I thought
That's
it
why
was
it was
too.
kind of a, go ahead and put your garden over there.
You think this was around 2011?
I think so. It would make the most sense.
Was it after a flood?
It was,
Yeah,
yeah,
big flood was
So we had the 06 and
2009,
then or
06, 09,
and then
in 11.
11.
11.
Yeah.
But it took quite a
I
while.
don't know if it was like one of the, it could have been one of
Was
the.
that
heavy
Sandy?
It took
rains.
quite a while to do the closeout because they had to hire not just a professional mason, it had to be someone with a historical background to put it back to more or less the same condition it was before.
We will dig. That was really great research. We'll find what we can and we'll,
It's got to be in the minutes somewhere because we had to talk about it for a very long time.
well, the actual paperwork, like from that has like the maps
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah, you'll have that.
Yeah, okay.
Say, I have another question for you. Are you planning to apply to an economic development loan fund or some kind of grant for this project?
For, you mean
To acquire
specifically
the
the purchase
property?
of the land? Not a direct loan. So what happened originally is we talked about purchasing the original 20 acres. So we rented this in increments, 20 acres and then the rest of the property, I think it was a year later. So I had asked for cash flow reasons to buy the 20 acres first. And then Carrie and I discussed buying the whole piece and then doing like a 5-year, basically a 5-year loan to pay that off with a $60,000 down payment. Is basically what.
Yeah, so they would give an initial $60,000 as a deposit. We'd figure out what we would normally do for interest and all that, but we won't call it a loan. We would break out the rest over that 5-year period with some sort of balloon payment at the end, or they could buy it at any time if they would have the rest of the funds to do, but we'd be locking in at the $3,000 per acre. And then at the end of it, they would take possession.
Contract or deed or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, there's ways to do that.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, you're off the hook.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, I'll give you
Thank you very
Thank
much.
We'll talk more about it in executive session.
Great.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Thanks,
Thank
have a good
you.
day.
All right, Carrie, want to move on to the financial report? please?
Yes, okay. So I'll do accounts receivable and payable when we get there. So under note 2, we still have the financing lease that is going to remain on here until we close out the Cascoon officially, and I'll get to that under that report where we are with that process. We do have some prepaid expenses in there that is listed as, that's our insurance. Currently, our accumulated depreciation sits at just over $620,000. We do have some accounts payable, which we'll talk about when we get to that part of the report. And our prepaid rental income, again, this is just Protel deposit for the purchase and also the security deposit with the lease that they have with us. Our current total liability and fund balance currently sits at $1.3 million, a little over $1.3 million. On page 2 is our age receivables. We are working to collect these solar payments, and we've contacted them yet again. Barb and I talked about the next step of this would be an official letter that they would have to sign for, saying that basically demand for payment. As we will talk about when we do the CAP report for the ABO, not paying these in a timely manner puts them in violation of losing their pilot. So we are working on language that will help us with that. Our attorney said that he would look at the letter that we come up with. But at this point, it's been 5 months since we billed them with a couple of calls and emails. So now's the time to get a little more aggressive with it. They're not.
Give you any indication of what the holdup is?
The only one that's really responded was Norwich Solar, and they said that it went to the wrong person, and we updated our files, and then we sent it again, and they said, okay, we'll get it paid, and there's been nothing. I don't know. Puckett and Tiffany, actually not Tiffany, but Puckett, has been a little difficult to get a hold of. They're one of the ones that we did not get the information that we needed for our audit until just a week ago. They just finally, a week ago, gave us the requested information we sent back in December about their pilot. So I don't have an answer. I don't know, unfortunately.
You look at all 3 of these and you say, what's the pattern here? And do our invoices go out on time, and do we have a follow-up after 60 days? Or in other words, what's the trigger when we start really putting pressure on for payment?
We try for a few months. We mail it, we email it, we make a call if it's still not paid. We get this age payable report a week before our meeting. So we try to talk to Kathy Joe or our bookkeeper about when things aren't coming in. I mean, until I get the report, I don't, we get checks in here and out here all day long. So, until I get this report, I don't know that something still hasn't been paid.
Because over 90 is,
Oh, yeah.
that's a lot. So,
they were billed
how
in
much
January.
over 90 are we? Because it just leaves.
They were billed in January.
January.
Every January they're billed.
Whoa, that's 180.
But I mean, at that one point, Norwich Chenango Solar paid what they owed for the last 3 years. It took a harshly worded letter. So, we don't want to take that route immediately. We try to work with them, and, sometimes is it a new person? Is it not getting to where it's supposed to be? I mean, we mail it, we email it, we call, we do our part, but at this point, we need to, crack down and send something strongly worded that somebody has to sign and verify that they received. It's just, it's an expense for us to do that, so I hate to jump to that when it's 30, 60 days, but at this point,
We shouldn't have to chase.
no.
This part of the agreement in the pilot,
It
right?
is.
They know their responsibility.
I would stop playing nice right now.
Yeah.
The part of our audit review from the state is accountability of these projects. And this is part of the accountability. In filling out the form, we're required to provide to New York State that information is part of the accountability. And I'm starting to get a little soured on solar project, our aged receivables, all solar projects.
Yeah.
And 2 of these bills should be, for lack of a better term, but chump change to them.
Right.
I've had electrical bills higher than that.
Yeah, we will move forward with that process probably next week.
The one suggestion I have too, when you send out your letter, I'd remind them that it's up to them to advise you of any changes in personnel and who to direct letters to, so that they can't use it as an excuse on why they didn't pay.
Okay.
I think anything over 90, you might want to send a registered letter and have them sign it.
That's what I said, yeah, we're gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do it at this point, and we're also gonna pull out language from the pilot that reminds them of their obligation and basically saying that you're in jeopardy of losing your pilot.
Terry, why don't these payments show up in the statement of activities?
Why don't the payments show? What do you mean?
Well, it looks like, if I look at the statement of activities and I look at pilot project fees, it looks like everybody's paid up.
No, well, this is what's been billed. So the statement of activity shows like what's been billed, what's been allocated, not that it's come in.
Yeah, but it doesn't show in the budget.
I don't know what you mean.
Well,
I'm looking at it, so
yeah, wouldn't these payments have been budgeted? So shouldn't there be a shortfall between actual and budget?
So budget is what we base the budget on, actual is what's actually come in. So if you look at the better, worse than budget, because it's been billed, so it's not like we've lost money, it's not like the amount came in less than what we budgeted, it's that we billed it based on what's been billed. So the better, worse than budget would only show up if something came in less than what we expected. So like, for example, like the Coventry project shows it's under $1,500 because we expected that project to close last year. So we haven't billed it, so we're under budget.
Understood,
Okay.
but does that mean we didn't budget these payments? That's what I'm asking, I guess.
It says Norwich Chenango Solar and it has the amount.
Yeah.
Under year to date.
And, yeah, and if year-to-date actual says they paid.
No, it doesn't, it just says it was billed.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is not, yeah, this
All
is just what was, because we billed it, it triggers it as a potential revenue.
Okay.
If it didn't come in under better, worse than budget, it would have parentheses around it. So like the High Wind Bridge, the High Bridge, I can say that wrong forever. High Bridge Wind Project, it looks like we're under $150,000 because we haven't built it yet, because the project hasn't closed. Sorry, I know it's a
All
little
right, so
confusing.
yes.
Yeah, so if you look at,
show it as received once it's billed.
exactly.
All right, thank you.
No, that's fine, good question.
So the best way for us to continue to monitor this is looking at those age receivables.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we get a report once a month.
beyond 31 days, maybe we can ask questions. Is that the best approach?
Oh, yeah, and so on the commerce side of the house, we've spent a lot of time cleaning up those processes, actually created a policy about collections and what do we do at 30, 60, 90, 120 days. I think, and with us cleaning up our policies and processes internally, that's something that we're also gonna look at here, at what point triggers that letter that we're talking about now. It's just, we haven't had a chance to do that yet.
It's a little bit different than just talking about on the finance purpose. Is there a possibility that you could develop a spreadsheet that would show us what the pilots and the date they began, the date they ended, what the payments are they're supposed to make, and just tell us if they're current or not? Do it on every
Separate spreadsheet.
Yeah, separate spreadsheet, just on a quarterly, instead of you having it on every month even, you could do it on a quarterly basis or something.
We have a spreadsheet on the pilots.
See, that's what I mean, I thought you probably would, so it'd be
Yeah.
nice for us to have, because then we'd know, yeah, we're already meeting our requirements based on the audit,
Yeah.
the-
I mean, this
Just so we get
age
it.
receivable tells you if they're current or not. If they're not on this list, it means they're current, but we could give you a copy.
Yeah, just.
I don't know if you
just
want it every month, but maybe
No,
like
not
once a
every
quarter.
month.
Yeah, once a quarter.
Yeah.
It kind of builds a history.
Yeah.
To something that we could quickly look back at and say,
Exactly.
look, this is 3 years in a row that they've been 6 months late.
See, and plus it would help because as this board changes, you get new people on board, at least then they'd have that history in front of them, because otherwise you wouldn't know, you have no idea.
I don't think our spreadsheet says the date they paid though. It just says, I don't know if we could go back and do that. We could add it. It definitely shows what it's been building, what we collected, but that spreadsheet doesn't keep track. But we do have our QuickBooks report of each pilot, I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me think about
And the
it.
start date of the pilot and maybe an end date on there.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
for this meeting.
One of the things that we do in the town, I think it's probably our most important document, is we have a profit and loss statement, so it tracks how you're doing based on your budget. So you're expecting this much revenue, and if you're coming up short, let's say, for example, sales tax, you see you're not coming in, and you know every month how you're tracking. And certainly the receivables would be obvious that you're not making the mark.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the statement of activities is. It's not as granular as what you're talking about.
Right.
Because we have so many different accounts, it wouldn't just be one profit loss statement, but if you look at the age receivable report and then you look at the statement of activities and you can see, if you look at the year-to-date actual, that really tells you where we're sitting based on the budget for the year. But yeah,
Right,
we'll
but
find a
the
way.
profit and loss is just, you don't have to cross-reference, it's right there. Did you make what you projected? And every month, a board member would be able to ask, hey, where's that payment? You'd have questions asked pretty much in real time.
Do you feel like this report isn't thorough enough? I've just hit what you're looking for. The pilot thing you can do. This report shows you what's not paid. I know what a profit loss is.
Ask
but I don't-
Kathy Joe how much, so I guess my question would be, she's got all the numbers. She probably uses a system that you click a button and it puts together a P&L. Profit and loss, sorry.
Well, that's what's taking the activities is.
But really, in the end.
It just looks different because we're not a
It's
business.
You accrue
Just a different term.
income based on invoice rather than actual payment. That's the only thing that's here. And if you take the statement of activities and the payables, then you've got it.
It's subtract amount, subtract it out and pay it.
But we'll develop a way for the pilot studies. We'll start there and see if that gives you a better picture. And then if there's other improvements we can make to reporting.
Well, even with that, it would help the next time they come in to do another audit, they would see that you're taking more of an active stance on what's going on with the files to make sure the payments are being received and all that kind of stuff too. So it would help address that whole issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll work on something for next one.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Under airport, next page, page 3 is payables. This is airport utilities. Again, this gets billed back to ProTel and they reimburse us. There have not been any issues with that, by the way. We've been doing that since they took the property in August. So it's, usually 30 days behind, but since everything's still in our name, we pay it and then they reimburse us with that. Under the statement of activities, so let's see, we do have the airport rent. You see we're right on track with that. We'll talk more about that project in just a little. The projected pilot fees, and this will not, this section will be out of whack for the year because Norbit and the wind project did not close last year. So the amount of money that we're going to bring in, the Norbit number will go up once that finally closes, and the High Bridge wind project will go down because year 1 was $100,000 payment, year 2 was $150,000. So just based on when the projects are closing, it'll be a little off. But once we get those monies in, you'll see how they adjust. And let's see, we also are expecting some money from the FEMA. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we are expecting a couple $1,000s for the admin portion of the FEMA grant that we did for the Halloween flooding. So that will be coming in shortly under other income. Under expenditures, everything is pretty much on track. We have to make some adjustments to some of the line items to allocate them out. So the travel training, for example, is one section. I need to sit down with Kathy Joe and reallocate some of those expenses into a different line item. But at the end, at the bottom, we're on a good track for the year. If you look at our net revenue over expenses, we are, budget-wise, we're supposed to be at 35,000. We are just under that, but once those other payments come in, we'll actually be ahead of the game. So we're still halfway through the year and say we're tracking pretty well. We have some money coming in, we have some money coming out, so the end of the year should be pretty flush.
Good. Need a motion to approve the financial statements?
Make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Raymond,
Ryan, I.
Keep it up.
Corey,
Burton. Bills and invoices, sure they're being passed around. Need a motion to approve the bills and invoices.
So move.
Need a second?
I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Raymond,
Ryan, I. Zeno, I.
Give it up.
Corey,
Burton. Executive Director Report.
Okay. I didn't leave myself a copy. I put them over here. Okay, just a minute. So I've been talking for a few months about wanting to do an overview with a review of our strategic plan. I apologize for those of you who have already heard it. It won't be super long. I know we have a lot we still have to go over today. But this is part of the roadshow that we're doing, making sure that not only our community members, but all of our boards know what we're working on as Commerce Chenango and our strategic plan overview. I did a presentation last week at Guilford at their town board meeting. Chairman Senek invited me. It went very well, really good discussion. I did a presentation a few weeks ago in Bainbridge. I presented to the Chenango County Planning and Economic Development Committee. And going through all of the boards. So I've extended this to anybody who would like me to come in, other municipalities, other towns, Rotary clubs. The best thing we can do to share about the work that we do here is to just get out there and tell them. And I think it's very eye-opening when people hear all the things that we do. I've tried to customize each of my presentations to the community I'm presenting to as well. So when I was in Bainbridge, I talked about all the things we've done to help support the community of Bainbridge and all that. I kept that stuff in for Guilford too, since Bainbridge and Guilford are so closely aligned. But it's been a good start. So you're part of my roadshow, South IDA. So I'll move through this fairly quickly. So on this first page, the umbrella, it just again shows you, you are on the IDA board. Obviously, you see yourself down on the right. These are all the entities under Commerce Chenango. So we are the county chamber. DCC is our LDC, our local development corp. They're a part of the IDA, but they're a separate organization. We have our 501c3 foundation, and we're also in charge of tourism. So all those things happen in this office. This next section, the next page, slides 3 and 4, just talk about our mission. So who we are, what it is that we're set to do. Take time to read this when you want to. I won't go through all this now. It just really goes through our mission and what does that mean? What are, the big keywords I would say are, business voice, professional trainings, communication clearinghouse that oftentimes we're called about things happening at state level, at a local level, somebody needs a resource or help. We get questions about all sorts of things, even things that have nothing to do with our office. But everybody here, has a commitment. If somebody comes here and if we can help them, we're not going to send them to someone else. We will find the information, we'll get them a number they need, we'll connect them to the right person. And we feel like that's, what we do for the community. Advocacy is something if I think about the thing I probably spend the most time on, it's economic development projects and advocacy efforts. That's why, I'm part of many of our state agencies regarding economic development. That's why I go to these conferences and, represent Chenango County in a number of different ways. I think it's already yielded us in a lot of positive ways. Relationship with the Regional Economic Development Council has been really great. They look to us as a support for what they're working on at a southern tier level. I think that's one of the reasons that helped us with the DRI award was, they knew what we were doing and what we were about, and we made sure that they knew what Chenango County was. So, and we do that on a state level with many agencies, but, and the tourism, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So, slides 7 and 8 just go through the process that we use to create the strategic plan. So when you get a minute and you want to go through all the steps that we did, combination of surveys, talking to businesses, talking to community members, goal planning sessions with the Commerce Board. The Commerce Board was the entity that drove this whole process. We did have a consultant that we hired, Zoe Vandermeulen from Action Collaboration. She was amazing. Did a really good job of keeping us on track and keeping us moving. The big thing that we said to her about this was, this isn't something we want to spend $15,000 on and then it sits on the shelf, and she's been checking in with me even now that we've, finished the plan with her. I actually have a call with her in a week or two. She's checking in with us to see how we're doing. This is a plan, it's active. I report on it to the executive committee. I report on it to the Commerce Board. The staff and I talk about it once a month at our staff meetings. It's a living document that we're constantly referring to. So that was really important for us, and that was one of the reasons why we chose Zoe. Slides 9 and 10 just go through our goals, so I'll just quickly run through them with you. Goal 1 is to increase awareness and value of Commerce Chenango throughout the county and beyond. So making sure that we have this consistent message, doing this roadshow. So you are, like I said, you're on that tour right now. Making awareness about who it is and what we do and what we offer is, sometimes people just don't know. And I use the story all the time, but, probably one of the biggest impacts I had was one of the staff meetings we had. And we were talking about, what's that elevator pitch? What is that thing that you say to people about what it is that we do? And one of my newer staff members said, when you say all these things, economic development, advocacy, we're the, driving force behind blah, blah. If you aren't in that realm, your eyes just glaze over. You hear economic development, blah, 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 and you don't hear anything else that somebody is saying. And that was a good mirror for me. I was like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, yes, you sound like you have big words and you do a lot of things, but to everyday people who don't understand, and even to our board members who don't understand, you all know IDA work, but you might not understand the rest of the stuff that we do. So really knowing our audience. So when we talk about what the elevator pitch is, it's not so much as having one statement that everybody says, it's having key words and letting people say it in a way that to the people they're talking to, it makes sense. So everyday people who are not associated with us, if I say we're the chamber, we do professional development, we help people get money through grants and loans, that means something to everybody. You guys, I could probably use some other words because you wouldn't understand what that meant. I say pilots, I say, but that was really helpful, and that was something I got from my staff member. And I've thought about that not only when I talk about what we do, but when I talk to anybody outside the organization. You sometimes forget, you're so immersed, right? We use acronyms all the time. We say things that don't make sense to general people, but just a tip I'll share with you, and think about that in your own lives. Goal number 2 was lead and facilitate economic development initiatives in Chenango County. So, continuing to do the good work that we do through finding businesses to invest in the county, to come to the county, expand on services that we have here, loan programs. We're into 2022. We already have done a lot of loans, and we have another one tomorrow that we're looking at for business startups. Barb and Jenna are really tag teaming our economic development side of the house. And we keep track of every person who comes to the office, calls and wants information about, how to start a business. They're looking for funding. They just want someone to talk to. We're making sure that we have the resources available to help them. And so we'll have a good number. We know that last year we helped, I think it was 27 different people. Not all of them started a business. We're also adding that to our tracker. How many of these do we know actually started? What was their next step? Why or why not didn't they move forward? It's just good data points for us to have. And making sure that we have the staff internally to do all the things that we say we're gonna do, which, I feel like with the addition of Jenna to our team and with Barb and Jenna tag teaming all of the economic development things that we're doing, it's amazing the amount of work that they're getting done. I keep saying I'm so busy, but I'm busy in a different way because I'm now able to focus on the bigger picture items because I know that they're taking care of talking to businesses and individuals and, getting the other work done is really important. But they make a really good team, and so it's been a nice addition to our staff here. Goal 3 is leverage resources to maximize local assets, promote opportunities, and increase the quality of life to make Chenango County more attractive and vibrant. This has a lot to do with what we do under tourism, making sure that people want to come here, they want to stay here. If they're going to visit here, is there a way that we can maybe switch that and say, hey, how about you live here? How about you move here? How can we go about promoting all the amazing things that we have in Chenango County? So that is what goal 3 is. Goal 4 is be the catalyst for collaboration with businesses, organizations, community members, and the government. This is all about communication and building relationships. We've made a lot of strides in the last couple of years with that. I feel like generally, at least, at the county level, all the board of supervisors know who we are. They know who I am. They might not understand everything that we do, but for the most part, they see us as a partner, which is really a great improvement there. Making sure that, when I have a question, I know who I can call. They know that they can call me for support. And making sure that our local governments are talking to. A lot of times, our organization is maybe the one that, set up this person who has a need and that person who had what they needed, and then they get together and make it happen. We're not always part of that story, and that's fine. That's not what we're here for. We're like, oh, don't forget to mention that we connected you. But I think a lot of times we forget to toot our own horn sometimes, because the way I see it is we're connecting people to what they need. But sometimes we're the silent person, the silent connector behind a lot of what happens here in the county. But making sure that the right people know our involvement is really important. Goal 5 is invest in resources to identify and break down barriers to development and growth within Chenango County. So this lists a lot of things, right? It lists broadband, cell service, childcare, housing, transportation. we are not the one who is in charge of these things, but we know that these things are really important to be able to have economic prosperity. And so we work really closely with Chenango County Planning Department, with the County, PED committee. We report to them almost every month. I try to be there. We make sure that we're connecting with local resources and offices to, again, try to be a helper. Sometimes we're the place that helps bring people together. So childcare is a good example of that. We've had some meetings where we have daycare providers and local entities, people who this is affecting, come here, and we have meetings to talk about what we're all doing to address the issues. It doesn't mean we're taking the lead on this by any means. We're more the person helping those entities come together. So I don't want you to think Goal 5 means we're taking these on as our initiatives. We're not, but we know that we have to spend time and resources on it because we all have to work together to make it happen. So just what happens now that this is done. So we officially closed out our process in March. The staff and I, like I said, are continuing to work on this and work together and continue with those data points and updates. We'll make sure that we are able to give that information to, not only the county planning committee, which is really important because they help support the economic development initiatives that we have. We'll make sure that they understand the work that we're doing, the impact that it's having, but also our members and the boards as well. It's all about partnership. That's what slide 15 is. Depending on where I am, I always say this is us partnering with you. So, again, this is Commerce partnering with the IDA. You're part of our organization, but, sometimes using the resources and tools that IDA have to make other things happen. Everything Vagalry is a great example of that. We've been able to step in and do some really, really wonderful work by partnering with other people. Just a quick note about tourism. I mentioned that, we are the tourism agent for the county. We, this year, for the first time, we're able to use a portion of the occupancy tax money to create a local grant fund. We just announced last month who we gave grants to for the first time. So organizations can apply for up to $1,000. We initially were only going to allocate $5,000 to this. It was the first year we didn't know how many requests that we got. Every single entity that applied for money got it. We actually ended up awarding almost $8,000. I think it was $7,900. So all the agencies listed here are all people that got money from us to help promote their program. This is for marketing money to help, with their mission and help do their programs for the year. So we're really proud of that. We had a representative from the Development Chenango Court Board sit on that committee. We had a representative from the County Planning Committee sit on that committee, and Audrey and myself and somebody from the Commerce Board. So we made sure it was inclusive. We took a look at their application. We talked about what they were going to do with the funds, and we were able to award money to all these organizations. So really proud about that. We do promote the I Love New York program, which is done through New York State. We do a lot to promote local resources, local attractions, local, what do you call them? Projects, sponsors, throughout the county. So I can go into more detail about that another time if you want to know more about tourism. And then just a quick note, one of the new initiatives under Chenango County Tourism is the Wine Beer Food Festival. This is something that we are doing. It's 100% under our tourism umbrella, tourism part of what we do. And this is happening at the fairgrounds. It's had a lot of buzz. We're very excited about it. We have, I think at this point, over 300 tickets have been allocated. We have vendors. We are about to announce our live music acts. It's a one-day event. We're hoping it will expand. We're hoping we can continue every year, but again, just something that we've taken on under tourism. I know there was a lot, so I'll just pause for a minute. If you have any questions, feel free to read through this, and if you want to come back with more questions, please let me know.
Anything for Carrie?
You just take a deep breath and relax.
Sorry. I know, I'm like, I get excited. I told you I had a lot of coffee today. Well, thank you for listening. I know it was a lot.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love how you structured the presentation. It just conveys the message to the partners. They can see themselves in this relationship. So good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and to each of you, if you have ideas about where else we could take this, like I said, I'm happy to come to any municipality, any town, any local group. We've offered it to businesses. I know I'll be making a presentation at Preferred. New York Central Mutual has talked about having me come in. So, anywhere we can do this is helpful.
Definitely a full season.
Okay, great. Happy to. Okay,
Moving on, pilots.
okay, so we finally have some movement. So I know I gave you a lot of papers at your desk. So one of the things I gave you was a letter, and a staple thing that says solar projects are on hold. Finally had a conversation with Dave Norvis. So as you know, the Norvis solar project from Coventry has not closed yet. And we were waiting, our attorneys had tried to get a hold of their attorney, they weren't getting back to us. So I finally just called Dave and was like, what's going on? So he shared that it's not that they're not doing it, but their entire project has been put on hold because there's this major legislative piece happening based out of a lawsuit out of California. And now there's an investigation into solar panels. He said you cannot get solar panels right now in the United States. It's put every project on hold. They don't know if it's gonna be months. When, at this point, he said they're not even gonna be able to start the project in 2022 because they are so far behind schedule. So he said they don't wanna allocate the money to do the closing when they don't know if they're gonna be able to do a project this year or next year. So it is on hold for right now. I did ask him for some more information that I could share with you, offered to do what I could, at least from the economic development side about, a letter to whoever the right people are. Letters of support is something that we do often to help move this along. But this has really stalled the solar industry in the United States. So I gave this to you just as a reference point. Feel free to read through. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to do some research and talk to you about it as well. But that's what's going on with Norbit. They're on hold right now. So not good progress, but at least we got an answer about what's going on with that project. High Bridge Wind, we are tentatively closing next Friday, June 24th. I think we're just in the last stages of taking a look at the pilot documents. They just sent us the cost breakdown, so we'll also make sure that we send that. Our attorney was also sending it to the appraiser and to the county real estate property office to make sure that they had a look at the pilot before we officially closed. So we are in that process right now. So tentatively, June 24th, we'll be closing on this deal. Okay, the Smyrna Solar Farm. So at the last meeting, you know that we had a presentation from this company. Is it Delaware Chenango Solar, or something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
So, and,
It's Delaware River Solar.
Delaware River Solar, thank you. And Mike was not here. And one of the things that they had asked us to do was to declare lead agency on this, which we did not want to do because, as you know, we usually look to the local planning board to do that. We can do it, we have it within our authority to do it, but we weren't gonna make that until we were able to
I
have a
appreciate
conversation.
that. Our board last night passed a resolution to turn that over to IDA to be a lead agency for seeker.
So that's the development. So Mike originally had said that they were gonna do it, but now
The planning board
the
was
planning board, yeah.
balking, and they were really gonna be our support and our experts. They've trained in it, but didn't look like it was gonna happen, so that resolution went through.
Okay, thank you, great. So now that we have that, we'll let the company know that we will be lead agency on the seeker process, and we'll identify what the next steps are with that. Wanted to make sure that we have this officially from the local planning board, and we'll make sure that we communicate with Mike through the process, as the Smyrna representative. So that's the new development.
So I would have to assume that even though we go through this process, it could be a while before they do anything as well. They're saying, hold on.
I was surprised, yeah, I think when we found out about this, we were talking about the project, I'm surprised that they're moving, maybe they're just getting things in place because they know a pilot can take a while. And it's really unclear how this is gonna end or when it's gonna end. It's really holding up the entire industry. I know there must be a lot of lobbying and advocacy activities happening to try to get this investigation cleared up. So I think they probably just wanna have their ducks in a row.
And our only communication was with Bergman Engineering, and I'll send you that email
Okay.
in there, and their part one of their forms for seeker was sent, and in their engineering breakdown, there was no contractor, or there was things that were omitted, so I think they're in the very early stages. They don't have anyone lined up to even create this project and
Okay,
make it happen, so. But I'll send that to you today, because we just had that resolution
yeah, no, thank you.
last night, so.
Okay,
Yeah, there were developments in Washington this last week on that investigation.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Does
I
it
don't
look
have all the
promising, do you
details.
know?
It was promising, yes, that they were
Okay.
moving ahead with things.
Well, thank you. All right. Thank you. Well, and thank you, Mike, for working with us on the project. Okay. Old business. So I had my closeout meeting with FEMA 2 weeks ago for the 2019 Halloween flooding grant. Interesting, part of the closeout process was making sure that the work has been done, that NYSNW said they were gonna do. The last update we had from them was that the work was going to be completed by the end of December. So they just wanted me to verify that the work had been done. So I contacted Melanie at NYSNW. She responded that something like the work had not been done and how do they know they're gonna get the money? Which I was very surprised because we sent them the money a while ago. She, I guess, said that they never got any of the payments from us. So Barb very quickly was able to find the canceled checks. We sent them proof that we did pay them, both disbursements. There was one for $5,000 and one for, I think, $67,000. So, oh yes, we did get them. So I said, okay, well, what's the update on getting the project completed? And she said she'll get back to me. So I know. So we are now in a situation where FEMA has paid out the money. The project they can't close the project because they don't have verification that the work has been done. So FEMA is helping me with language on this and communication back to them that we need a set timeline and a set schedule. Otherwise, there will be repercussions from FEMA due to the money that was paid. So we are working on it. It is frustrating. I know this whole process has been really frustrating for all of us. Between our staff's time and FEMA's time, it's been a lot. I think I picked this project up right after it was that Halloween, after I started, and we've been working on this for that long. So it's a little frustrating.
Well, what amazes me is the railroad's gone through this in several different activities when they had the floods and stuff, and they've gone through this process, so they know how the process is supposed to work. And
Right.
usually, unless you show a financial need, you have to do the work first before you get a payment. So
Right.
The railroad's just playing the game like they've been playing all along.
So, right, and so we're caught in the middle once again, because we're the ones who applied for we had, our record keeping on our end is flawless. We've done everything that we're supposed to do. The guys, Yayo and Bob LaCourt, they've been really great. They've been helping me with the process. We worked up a letter that FEMA is going to send NYSNW about it. So hopefully that will kick them into gear to at least give us the timeline for the construction updates.
Has the railroad ever followed through with the requirements we have for them to follow up with the reports they're supposed to give to the county?
No. And we have sent them, our attorney sent them a letter about that as well, because they also still owe us some money from the lease payments throughout the process. It's very frustrating. I feel like we're doing everything that we can on our end to communicate very clearly about what's expected. We got our attorney involved in this because we needed a little more strength behind what we were doing. We're caught in this weird situation with them. We'll continue to pursue as best we can. We can, if you want to have additional conversation in executive session, we can.
They're already paid totally for what they haven't done.
They've been, the FEMA reimbursement that they were allocated for each project has been paid. So just over $70,000.
Is that the norm? Do we normally pay before everything is done? We usually keep back at 10% and anything, or some sort of percentage, anything we ever have done.
I was directed to give the payment to the entity it was supposed to get. That's what I did.
But you were informed that the work was done.
Yeah, and we were also informed that the work
See,
was
that's
done.
the difference.
Well, that is they're in fraud, that's a fraudulent statement. That needs to be pursued, I would think.
Maybe we should continue this in executive session.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. On to slightly better. So we've been working on the corrective action plan. So after the last board meeting, we had a governance committee meeting where we went through the suggestions made by the ABO through the audit that we had, worked out what some of our action steps are. So you were sent a copy of that yesterday. Barb's been working very hard on this and doing a lot of follow-ups, and thank you to her for all the work that she's done to get this ready to go. So what we're gonna be looking for from you today is to go through this with us, talk about any of the ones that you might have a question about, and then get a resolution to approve our corrective action plan response so that we can submit it back to the ADO. So I will just run through each of the recommendations quickly, and if you have a question about what we're implementing, you can let us know. The first recommendation was about updating our UTEP policy, which we are in the process of doing that. Barb's done a lot of good research, looking at other UTEP policies and filling in the holes that we should have had. We're not ready to give you a new policy to approve today, but we're hoping that we'll have a draft of it for you next meeting. So what we've indicated here is that we are working on it with a pending implementation date of July 20th. So just making sure that we've found some other really good examples, making sure all the language is in there about, expanding on what kinds of projects that we do. That was a lot of it, just making sure that detail was there that wasn't there before, based on the activities that we're currently doing. So that's the first recommendation.
Carrie, would you allow yourself a little room here, and instead of, just a recommendation, instead of saying to adopt it, is to review it? Because there may be, give yourself a breathing space there.
Like, instead of noting the
See where
July
it says, okay, it says,
pending.
will be, yeah, so it says will adopt by resolution when completed, but in implementation, you have pending July 2022.
Mhm.
Presentation of draft or something, so you know that it gives you a little room if we have changes or whatever. I don't know, the
yeah,
way
we
to
can-
adopt it in July.
We can change it to August, and just give it that way in case there's more feedback next month, and we have to go back and look at it again.
I would say by end of third quarter,
Just say
2022.
end of third quarter.
Thank you.
Gives you a lot of
Yes,
leeway, it
yes.
doesn't narrow you down to a specific date.
Thank you. Okay, we will do that, thank you. The next was making sure that the staff complete the CBAs for board consideration and evaluating each project. This is the cost benefit analysis. As you know, we've already started doing that. As soon as we had this feedback from the ADO last fall, we had a cost benefit analysis sheet that we've brought to the meetings. We've talked through what that cost benefit analysis is. So we said we've already implemented this, so the implementation date is immediately because we already took action on this. Number 3 is ensure capital investment information is tracked and compared to project goals. So we are adding this, so a lot of these have to do with adding these to our annual questionnaire, which part of, if you saw in the checks that we were paying out, Barb spent a day in Steuben County. We work with them very closely. They have 59 pilots that they track. And we have like 8. So they are really very good at what they do. They've had a number of wind projects. They've had a number of solar projects. They're often who we go to for resource and information. The chairman of the executive director of the IDA is Jamie Johnson. And so I work really well with him. So Barb was able to meet his Barb, to go through what the process they use. So a lot of these, this was one of the things, was making sure that we add these to our questionnaire. So we'll be sending that questionnaire out earlier. We're going to be changing that entire questionnaire, adding a lot of these questions, and also including some of that tougher language about deadlines, when it's needed. If we don't receive it by X date, you'll be in jeopardy of losing your pilot, that kind of a thing. So it was a really beneficial day. I appreciate Barb taking the time to make that long trip, but we were able to, I think a lot of that helped with some of our goals moving forward. So that's part of number 3, is making sure this is added to our questionnaire and that we review the information. So we're gonna make that, we're saying immediately for that because these don't go out until the fall. And so Barb's already started making those changes to the questionnaire. So by the next time we do this, all these changes will have been made. This next one, verifying and monitor energy generating capacity for project goals. So this has to do with our solar and wind projects. We definitely can ask them to let us know annually what the actual power was that outputted on each of their projects. The part that we really went round and round about was the fact that they feel like everything that we do, it was all about verifying, right? They feel like we shouldn't just be taking everyone's word for it. We need to take that extra step and verify all these things. There's a lot of things we can verify. There is no way for us to verify this information. We don't have capacity or ability to do it. We talked to Jamie at Steuben County about this, and he said, we don't do that. He said, there is no way that you can do that. The best thing you can do is ask them for the information, have it on the questionnaire, make sure they fill it out. We really feel like this is an unreasonable request for the state to ask us to do this without any process in place for this. They did say that these were recommendations, not necessarily have-tos. So that's why our response is basically that we're going to be adding this to our questionnaire, but we added the line that we feel there's no way that we can effectively verify these items.
I would
based on
take
the
that out.
information.
I don't think it's necessary to have that last line in there.
Well, then we're not addressing the verification part.
We are with the top part. I think the line that says who regulate power distribution statewide and those agencies are better equipped to manage this process. I think
Just take out
that's-
the,
Yeah,
okay,
The lesson.
because you've already said what we're going to do. We're gonna put it on the questionnaire. We're gonna take that information. We're gonna let the regulating agencies confirm that stuff and
Okay.
make sure they're regulating. I don't think
okay,
we need
That's
to
fine.
say that.
The only request or recommendation I say, you could send a request letter to the New York State Power Authority saying that you're looking for generation of power within Chenango County to verify pilots, the agreements, and just see what they send you back, and then have that in your file to prove. So they could send you a letter back saying, no, we don't regulate that or
That isn't what they're asking for. They're asking for capacity, not what was actually generated.
no, you're supposed to follow up with how much was generated versus with the power that they say they're gonna be able to generate.
Yeah, but that changes every year.
Yeah, but that's why-
It is, it's an impossible thing.
Well, that's
for us
why
to
though,
do.
but in the grid system, see, New York State grid, someone must be controlling the power in the grid system and know what that power limit is. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any control on New York City getting power, or Syracuse getting power, or New York or Norfolk getting power. Someone knows, because the grid system has a capacity, maximum capacity, so they have to follow that to see. So, but if you send a letter to the Power Authority and ask them for documentation of power being generated in Chenango County to go out, and they say they can't, then you've got your proof right there that you
It's
have
an
no control over.
impossibility.
That's all I'm saying. That way you have verification that you're not just saying, no one has control over this, or we don't know. Well, at least you document the fact that you've requested that. And if the Power Authority doesn't know, then like you said, nobody knows. So it would just be just a follow-up documentation for you or something like that.
like, is that something we should do once a year?
Yeah.
Even just to say we sent the letter on X date, regardless of.
Well,
the
if you
response?
just send it once and you get the letter back saying we can't do this, that's how you get put in the
Like, try
file.
it now for
Yeah.
last year and see what
Yeah, and
happens.
just see what happens and just put it in the file. That way you've got backup documentation on what they're requesting.
That would justify that last statement. We can't get it, there's no way. we can
Exactly,
get
that's
it.
what I was thinking, Martha, just to have that in there so that you see, so you're doing, the IDA is doing their due diligence. And you followed up by trying to get the information that they're saying we should have. Well, that you've already said, and it's not available, then you've got it.
So if we added maybe at the line, instead of saying it the way it is, just say CCIDA will attempt to verify through New York State Power Authority.
I don't even, you even gotta say that.
I
I would just put it in
Just
the
do-
file.
Yeah, just put the letter in the file and that's it.
So take this line out, we'll do that internally.
Yeah.
We can try and see what they say. I don't think it's that they don't have the information, but are they gonna send it to us? I mean, I feel like if they were gonna do that, they would just send it to all the county IDAs once a year annually. Especially if the state is saying they're requiring it,
You would think.
you would think.
With that said, if they're requiring this from all of them and their audits,
Right.
they will get more pressure to either come up with something or say to the guys, stop asking for that, they can't get it.
There's really no way to do this other than for the solar site to try and generate maximum capacity on an annual basis, which they aren't gonna do. So it's a ridiculous request.
That's what Jamie said, and then, that's what he said in a very eloquent way. Yeah, so like we said, it's a recommendation. I think adding this is, like we said, as doing our due diligence. Barb can send a letter. We'll try to see what will give us for last year. Just, we'll see what happens. And we'll go from there. But like I said, they do 58 pilots a year. So that's, and if they're not doing that, that's, yeah. Did you question? You look like you have a question.
No, I
Oh.
just, I agree with everything you're saying. We should find out whether or not you can get the information. But what's troubling me is these are all taxpayer subsidized projects, and how they don't have the information, which I can't imagine that there's no accountability on what we're paying for here. And so
We've never asked. I mean, it's never been on our questionnaire, so we'll add it. We'll see what happens this year.
I'm sure the documentation exists.
Yeah.
It's-
It's, them getting it to us is probably not as difficult as us. That's what ADO kept saying, is it's up to you to verify. You have to verify, you have to verify. So they're gonna give us the information. The part that we're struggling with is the verification part on this. There's things we can verify for sure, and we'll get to some of
Right,
those.
I know they insist that we're proactive, I guess,
Right.
I get that, but I'd like to know why an agency that's in charge of that, like the Public Utilities Commission, would be reluctant to forward that information.
Well, it's not that, it's, you know, there is a theoretical capacity when the thing is built, and the panels are brand new, that degrades over time.
Right,
So, you know, you get, this is the capacity of this site on day one when it starts. A year later, it's gonna be different, but who knows
why
what the
wouldn't you,
difference
but
is?
why wouldn't you document that?
How? I mean, how are you gonna test that?
Well,
Because you're not generating capacity anyway.
And you don't know when you're gonna do that, because unless the grid needs the power, they're not gonna allow you to put the power in.
Exactly. You know, that's why 1 out of 3 windmills is turning.
Exactly, yep. See, that's
actually, are you getting any bang for your buck for these expensive projects, is what we were discussing last time? No?
No.
And is that why they're
No.
reluctant to send that
That's-
information your way?
That's why it requires a subsidy, the government help to put
Exactly.
them in the first
Or
place.
they
You
wouldn't be
can't financially justify these projects on their own at this point in time.
It's in the storage capacity is not there for them. You know, they can generate electricity when it's a sunny day, but they can't store it. It's gonna be transmitted. The storage capacities are so limited on how long you can keep power. That's one of the biggest problems they've got, you know? That's where we're talking, like I was saying about the power authority. When the demand is there, like it's gonna be in July, August, and September down in New York City, they're pushing all the power they can get just to take care of the air conditioners going down through there, you know? So that's when they want everybody online putting power out. That's what I'm saying, that the power authority must know who's generating power when it's being submitted, you know, in through the line, because they've got, you know, it's like, they've got control over that pipeline, how much power is needed and how much power can go. So they would be telling these companies like the windmill, put all you can in and they'll accept it in through the grid system. And that's one of the problems we got, is that the grid is not capable
Exactly.
of taking all the power that they want. You know, when they start talking about electric cars and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if everybody had electric cars right now, the grid couldn't take it. So you wouldn't get a power on, so. But you would think somebody has control over how much is going in and what's being generated outside of their own system that they've got, you know.
Okay, well, we'll do that. We'll let you know what happens, but we'll make that, we'll take out the last line. Thank you. Number 5 was requiring businesses to submit quarterly payroll tax forms with their questionnaires. We've already implemented this. This has been added to our annual project questionnaire. And again, that's about us verifying the information. So rather than just telling us, we want to see examples of those forms. So that's already been implemented. For businesses submitting their ST340 form, which is about sales tax exemptions, we've already actually implemented this, and we did this year. So we already took this in action. We did it for our 2021 reporting, and that's already been done. Number 7, establish procedures for documenting approved mortgage tax exemptions have been used and properly reported. Again, sometimes, companies will ask for this, but then not use it. I think they ask for everything that they think they might need, but then they might not have a mortgage, so they might not need the mortgage tax exemption. And we didn't have a process to verify whether they had actually used that exemption or not. So this also has been added to our annual questionnaire. And we will work with the property tax department to make sure the information that's collected is given to us for tracking. So we mark that as immediately. Number 8 was implement procedures to track pilot amounts billed and received to make sure that bills are accurately prepared. So this is another interesting difference. Chenango County does it a little bit differently in that the county bills their own pilots. Other counties, it's the IDA that does it for the project. So example, Steuben County, the person there does all the billing themselves. The problem we're having, and actually Chairman Seneca is here, which is good. we're not being given a copy of a receipt or a copy of the bill. So when they bill the company for the tax, we're not given a copy of that. So then we have to then go back to the county and ask for it, and the county does not give it to us. They say, well, you can come here and look at our files. It's not really, that's a lot of time of going back and forth. So we would like to create a process where when they build these projects, they just send us a copy, since technically on paper we're the owner. And as well as when it's paid, giving us a copy of the receipt. That also is not happening. We've had those conversations with the county real property tax office. We are hoping that we can maybe have a meeting with Chairman Senate. And then too, to talk about it, I feel like it's a little silly to ask Barb to run over to the county to check paper files. So if we can just create a process, and we are required to do this by the state. So I think if we can just clean up that process, explain to them why we're asking for that, they might not understand what it is that we're asking why. So hopefully by having a meeting with them and sitting down and talking through what's being asked of us, we can just create this. Like I said, we only have 8 or so pilots. It's not like we're asking for a lot of them, and they know what the pilots are when they're doing them. So we mark that as immediate, because we are expecting that process to be in place by the next billing cycle. And we'll work with our local officials to get that process cleaned up. Number 9 is ensure the contract for admin services includes an understanding of all the services provided to comply with the laws. So this has to do with the administrative services agreement that the IDA has with Commerce for staff. And we've already made these changes. So if you remember when we did the agreement for this year, we already cleaned up the process, added in all the steps that are required. And really, it just really is about transparency about what we do for the IDA, and that's already been done. And number 10 is just continue to have training about oversight responsibilities regarding this, and this has already taken place. Barb and Jenna have both done virtual IDA trainings. They're both going in 2 weeks. They're both going to Albany for 3 days for the basic economic development certification course. It'll be good for them too to not only get some more official training about economic development and the IDA, but also to create more of a network of people and resources that they can talk to. I know Barb already got a lot from Stacy, from Stu Ben, so it only helps to create contacts in the field. So we've already taken steps to do that. And so that is the plan, with the noted corrections that we've already discussed. If you're comfortable with it, we need a resolution to pass this so that we can submit it back to the state. And we're within our window of response. If you're comfortable with it.
When's the deadline to get it in by?
July.
Okay.
But we want it to be ahead.
Okay, need a motion for a resolution with the suggested changes to submit the following corrective action plan.
So moved.
Need a second?
Corey, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye.
Raymond,
Ryan, I.
Give it a,
Corey, aye.
Burton,
Thank you, and thank you to the governance committee for your help, and to Barb for pulling in all the information. I feel really comfortable moving forward. I feel like we're in a good spot. Okay.
property update.
Okay. So just a couple updates here. So the airport building, we're in the final stages of ProTel purchasing that property from us. It's with the attorneys right now. They're doing their due diligence. I haven't been given a closing date, but I think it'll be, we had said sometime in June or July, so we should be closing on that property soon. Cascoon, the appraisal on the building is actually being done today. Sue Baldwin is doing it. She's been our, I called her, she's like, you have another property? Yeah, we're just wheeling and dealing properties these days. So she's actually there today doing the appraisal. Looking for direction from you on this. I know we've said this is not something we ever wanted to take back. It was something that we sort of got saddled with. I do have someone interested in purchasing it. It's Eric Kelly, who is doing our caretaking for us right now. He locked up the building back when we had those issues. Depending on what the appraisal comes back at, I know he's looking at making us an offer. Depending, again, we have to use the appraisal for that. Just making sure that we still are good with, we don't want this building anymore. Like, we never intended to have it back. It's an eyesore, it's falling in. If he wants it, I say take it, but I know we have to, sell it for appraised value and work that out. But I do want to be able to move forward in those steps before the next meeting and get that shored up based on the appraisal, if you're comfortable with that.
I personally don't see any reason why I wouldn't want to move forward.
Well, and one word of caution, because of the comparables are coming so high, because the market last year was so robust. We may even want to look at that appraisal as maybe it's not, I'm not saying it's that there may be some input we can get from some of the real estate agents or someone on the real value.
Yeah. We had the inspection done, so we, all the issues with the building have been outlined. The appraisal will help. I know, so back to the Cascoon, there was $25,000 left on that lease. We technically have already been partially paid for that building, so I think we have to take that into account too. They walked away from it. They really could have just paid us the $25,000 and then owned the building, but they didn't want to. So I think we have to look at the investment we've already gotten from the property. And I think that's a decision that we can, I think we have justification if we were gonna make a change to the appraisal based on a few different factors. The building needs a lot of work. It's really a kind of falling in horrible. I'm surprised he wants it, but he does. So I say we get rid of it while we can, but that's not my decision.
Does anybody have an issue with getting rid of the building or moving forward with looking at getting rid of the building?
Not at all.
There you go, there's your guidance.
Thank you. We are still just back to Cascoon. So Cascoon has closed up shop, the one in green, unfortunately, just like a week ago. And so we've been trying to get Don to, the pilot has not been sunsetted because he has not signed the final paperwork from our attorney. Twice last week, Barb was gonna go meet him, and because she's a notary, to have him sign the paperwork to do it. And then he canceled on us both times and then said he'd come in on Monday and he hasn't. So I've been texting with him, he just closed the building. We have to have the signed paperwork. I know Stephen Harris asked me about it the other day at the board meeting. And I said, yeah, it's sunsetted, but until we get the signed paperwork, I have nothing to give you about this. I did tell Don that, technically he's financially liable until we get this paperwork signed. So I was hoping that would prompt him to meet up as Barb's willing to go to him. So hopefully we'll get that paperwork signed in the next week or so and we can put that behind us. And everything bagelry. So we are in the final weeks of that project. I did have them get a hold of Premier Roofing, who was the company that did the lifetime warranty on the roof. I have all the paperwork. The warranty follows the building and the roof. So even though it's going to change owners, we will have that. The guys were there last week fixing a couple of leaks that were noted. When we had looked at the inspection, that was kind of the biggest concern that we wanted to make sure was taken care of. Next week we'll be meeting with the guys from Everything Bagelry to start looking at the lease. They're gonna wanna move in as soon as they can. I know that was the whole reason why we're purchasing this building, so we'll start working through that, all of that, and we should have that ready to go for next meeting to approve.
Any questions on any of that? All right, I'd like to make a motion that we move into executive session to discuss contract negotiations as well as potential legal issues. Need a second? Okay, any discussion? We'll vote.
Richard, I.
Brian, I, sorry.
Correct. First night.
Thank you. Thanks, Shannon. Thank you.
Oh, gotcha. And then put it in the appropriate